Qian Bao was good at serving others. It was how she secured a good marriage and how she ensured a stable life in the years that followed. Just as the fortune teller had said, Qian Bao, her name meant wealth and treasure, would endure hardship before reaping the rewards of a blessed future. Qian Bao met Chen Qing. She had heard the name 7 years ago, but it wasn't until 3 months ago that she saw the woman in person. Qian Bao remembered it was a rainy day. She had jolted awake in the middle of the night, convinced she had heard someone groaning next door. Hurriedly throwing on her clothes, she pushed open the door, only to be met not by a frail, bedridden elder, but by a neatly made bed and the sharp scent of disinfectant. Then she remembered. Her mother-in-law, Ji Haiying, had already passed away. A hollow emptiness settled in her chest. She lay back down but couldn't sleep. What felt like a momentary nap stretched until dawn. By then, she was already late. Her son, Wei Nan, was furious. He stormed out without breakfast, braving the rain to head to school. Left with no choice, Qian Bao hurriedly prepared a meal and rushed to deliver it to him during his break. That was when she saw Chen Qing. A dark green umbrella, a woman in a red dress beneath it. In the misty drizzle, that vivid splash of color caught Qian Bao's eye so unexpectedly, so irresistibly, that she followed. She had left in a hurry. A plain t-shirt on top, beige carrot pants on the bottom, making her legs appear short and stocky. Her shoes were from a few seasons ago, and as she stepped into a puddle, muddy water splashed onto her calves, sending a chill through her. For Qian Bao, this was a clumsy, humiliating attempt at tailing someone. The woman's high heels clicked briskly through the water. Qian Bao, holding her umbrella, stumbled into puddles, struggling to keep up. Thus, what had begun as a cautious pursuit soon turned into a frantic chase. She had no time to think, no time to hesitate. All that remained in her mind was a single thought: catch up to her. Amidst the pattering rain, Qian Bao finally succeeded. She had followed the woman all the way to a shopping street in Yunshan County, stopping just outside a clothing store. The woman entered. The dark green umbrella was discarded at the entrance, losing its luster. Standing in the drizzle, Qian Bao suddenly came to her senses. She raised her own umbrella and looked up at the shop sign. Chen Qing Clothing Store. Should she go in? Qian Bao hesitated. She had no experience catching rats. If anything, she was afraid of their sharp teeth and pointed noses. She thought for a moment, her resolve wavering. Just as she turned to leave, the shop door creaked open and the woman stepped out again. Chen Qing had changed. Her red dress was now pink. Shaking the rain off her umbrella, she glanced up and immediately noticed Qian Bao still standing there. "Oh, it's you, big sister. Come in and have a seat. It's pouring out." Chen Qing was beautiful, undeniably so. At that moment, she was dazzlingly beautiful. At first, Qian Bao looked her in the eye. Then, as the conversation went on, her back hunched, her head lowered, until she seemed to shrink a few inches in Chen Qing's presence. Chen Qing handed Qian Bao a cup of hot water. The double-walled glass insulated most of the heat, making it pleasantly warm in Qian Bao's hands. She clutched the cup tightly, her gaze fixed on a dress. Chen Qing followed her line of sight and chuckled. "Big sister, are you interested in that dress? That one's not for you. Your fair complexion would look better in a brighter color." Is that so?" Qian Bao forced an awkward smile, a tinge of embarrassment creeping into her expression. But when she finally met Chen Qing's eyes, something inside her ignited, an uncontrollable fire raging through her chest, suffocating her. "I'm not here to buy clothes." "Then what brings you here?" Chen Qing smiled, unbothered. "I wanted to ask, do you know that Puxi is planning to divorce me?" Qian Bao's voice trembled as she spoke, fists clenched, forcing herself to demand an answer. Chen Qing's eyes flickered with amusement. Then suddenly she laughed. "Oh, he mentioned it once or twice. He said he wanted to marry me. But honestly, I don't care much about things like that, so I didn't pay attention." Qian Bao's heart plummeted. She took a deep breath, but tears still welled up and spilled over. Sister, can you talk to him? Tell him not to divorce me. Our son, Wei Nan, is still young. I need to take care of him. I looked after his mother until the end. He can't just turn his back on me. She spoke through sobs, her face streaked with tears and mucus. Chen Qing calmly handed her a tissue, her expression unreadable. Big sister, you've been married to him for so many years. Don't you know him by now? The problem isn't me. If he divorces you, it doesn't mean he'll marry me. Maybe by tomorrow, there'll be a new woman in the picture. Then what will you do? Qian Bao fell silent. She knew where the problem lay, but confronting Wei Puxi, she didn't have the courage. 15 years of marriage had turned her into nothing more than a housemaid for the Wei family. Even now, in front of Chen Qing, the so-called other woman, she could only lower her head and beg. Sister, please have some compassion. I know I'm not as good as you. I don't even know how many other women she has outside. I don't ask for much. I just want to live peacefully with my son. You already have everything except for that marriage certificate. Can't we just keep things as they are? Chen Qing shook her head. Big sister, when the rain falls, it falls. When a man makes up his mind, there's no stopping him. What am I supposed to do? Sister? Chen Qing didn't answer. Instead, she stood and smoothed the hem of her dress. I need to get back to work, big sister. If you have nothing else to say, why don't you head home? With that, she dismissed her. Tears streamed down Qian Bao's face. Seeing that Chen Qing wouldn't budge, she had no choice but to shuffle toward the door. The rain was still falling. Qian Bao didn't bother opening her umbrella. She walked alone through the downpour, stopping at an intersection. Then, with all her might, she slapped herself. Twice. Qian Bao, you pathetic fool. Qian Bao married Wei Puxi 15 years ago. The results of this marriage were as follows. One son, with a terrible temper. A paralyzed mother-in-law who needed daily care, from feeding to cleaning up after her. A monthly living allowance of 5,000 yuan, increasing every year. Besides that, she had less hair, rougher skin, and more wrinkles. Starting from her second year in the household, Qian Bao had taken on the responsibility of caring for her mother-in-law. She continued this duty until just a few days ago, when the elderly woman peacefully passed away in her sleep, bringing her life to an end. At the funeral, Qian Bao, the daughter-in-law, cried harder than the son himself. On the day of the burial, she clung to the coffin so tightly that she scraped off a layer of wood from the surface. Everyone praised her filial piety, but only Qian Bao knew the truth. She was simply afraid. She feared that with Ji Haiying gone, Wei Puxi would no longer want her. Sure enough, just a week after the mourning period ended, Wei Puxi gave her an ultimatum, divorce. Qian Bao cried under her blanket for an entire day, feeling lost and helpless. She had lost her leverage, while Wei Puxi was now unrestrained. It seemed like there was only one path left for her: pack up and leave. For 2 days, Qian Bao wandered around like a lost soul. Then, one day while buying groceries at the market, she overheard someone mention Chen Qing's name. Maybe this was the only option she had left. She had to find Chen Qing, Wei Puxi's well-known mistress. Even though there had been other women before and after Chen Qing, only Chen Qing had stayed by his side for 7 years, firmly establishing herself with the dignity of a legitimate wife. Qian Bao wanted to find Chen Qing and cry to her, hoping she would take pity on a dutiful housewife and let her live in peace. Yet, as cowardly as Qian Bao was, she still had a shred of pride as the legal wife. She couldn't bring herself to beg the mistress who had ruined her family. But reality proved that Qian Bao was cowardly enough. Not only did she have no dignity in front of Wei Puxi, but she had none in front of Chen Qing either. Elder sister, little sister. The Qing dynasty had been gone for 100 years, yet Qian Bao could still humble herself to the point of sharing a husband with another woman. And yet, no one thought she was worth anything, not even as the discarded first wife. Feeling utterly worthless, Qian Bao cried through another sleepless night. Half asleep, images flickered through her mind. Wei Puxi's ruthless face, then Qin Qing's enchanting beauty. She was like an ant, crawling at Qin Qing's feet, watching her red lips move. She thought that gaping mouth was about to swallow her whole, but instead of the terrifying scene she had imagined, she heard a soft, alluring voice whispering in her ear. "Elder sister, think of another way. Another way. Qin Qing was telling her to find another way. The next morning, Qian Bao was jolted awake by the sound of her phone ringing. She thought it was her alarm, but when she glanced at the screen, she saw the name husband. The phone instantly felt scorching hot in her hands. Panicked, she tossed it away before hesitating for a few seconds, then reluctantly picked it up and answered. "What the hell are you dawdling for?" Wei Puxi's voice was as harsh as ever. Qian Bao was just about to explain, but he spoke again. "I told you a few days ago about the divorce, didn't I? I'm out of town right now, but I'll be back in Yunshan in about a week. Get everything packed up, and we'll settle it as soon as I return. You hear me?" His last 5 words were almost shouted. At some point, talking to her had become like firing bullets. He couldn't go a single conversation without barking orders at her. Qian Bao clutched her chest, trembling. She instinctively murmured a soft and the call was immediately cut off. She wanted to cry again, but her swollen eyes could no longer shed tears. She sat there in a daze until she heard a door open in the next room. That finally snapped her out of it, and she sluggishly made her way to the kitchen. There was still a master in the house to take care of. Qian Bao absent-mindedly set the dishes on the table. Wei Nan came out after washing up, took one look at the plate of egg pancakes, and instead of picking up his chopsticks, frowned in dissatisfaction. "I told you I wanted instant noodles for breakfast, didn't I? I told you last night. Why is it egg pancakes again?" Wei Nan scowled at Qian Bao, his expression a perfect replica of his father's. Qian Bao was still in a daze. She let out a simple, "Oh," instinctively apologized and quickly promised to make instant noodles for dinner. But Wei Nan still wasn't satisfied. "No wonder Dad doesn't come home. If I were him, I wouldn't want to come back to this house either." His voice wasn't loud, but every single word hit Qian Bao's ears with piercing clarity. Suddenly, she remembered her tearful plea to Qin Qing the day before. She had said she wanted to live peacefully with her son, but now, even her son didn't want to stay with her. A surge of rage flooded her chest. Why was everyone treating her like trash? Was she really such a worthless person? Her motherly love had been fed to the dogs. Furious, Qian Bao abruptly stood up and, with a sweeping motion, sent the entire table of food crashing to the floor. "If you don't want to eat, then don't. Go find your dad and let him take care of you. I'd love to see how long he can put up with you. You don't want to come home, is that it? Fine. Just hold on a little longer. I'll be packing up and leaving next week." Qian Bao glared fiercely at Wei Nan, as if confronting someone else through him. Wei Nan, clearly not expecting such an outburst over a casual complaint, looked flustered. His fingers tightened around his chopsticks, unsure of what to do. After a moment of awkward silence, seeing Qian Bao still panting with rage, he hesitantly asked, "Mom, are you okay?" "See? People are pathetic. If you're too nice, they'll walk all over you." Wei Nan stopped making a fuss, and Wei Puxi was not in Yunshan. Although the divorce was imminent, Qian Bao felt like she was in the eye of a storm. Her life was eerily quiet. For the past 2 days, she had been pondering over Qin Qing's words. She asked me to figure it out. Was that just an excuse, or was there some hidden meaning behind it? Qian Bao couldn't understand. She had always thought that taking over was the ultimate goal of every mistress. Yet, now that it was within reach, why did it seem like Qin Qing was somewhat reluctant? Qian Bao was overwhelmed with thoughts, but soon, she believed she had found the answer. That day, she went out to buy some study guides for Wei Nan. The largest bookstore in Yunxian County was in the southwest of the town, and right next to it stood the county's most luxurious hotel. As Qian Bao stepped out of the bookstore with a few books in hand, she spotted a familiar figure at the hotel entrance. That curvaceous figure was unmistakable. There wasn't a second person in Yunxian with a body like that. With just a glance, she was sure it was Chen Qing. Qian Bao quickly ducked behind the doorframe and saw a man wrapping his arm around Chen Qing's waist as they walked toward a car together. The man was about 1.7 meters tall, slightly overweight, and had a protruding belly. He was not Wei Puxi. A chauffeur got out and opened the trunk, while the man pulled Chen Qing by the arm, trying to usher her into the car. Chen Qing giggled flirtatiously and refused. After sending the man off, they lingered at the car window, laughing and chatting for a bit before the vehicle finally drove away. That shameless woman. Qian Bao's face turned red with anger. For a fleeting moment, she even felt sorry for Wei Puxi. Yet, Chen Qing remained as composed as ever. She had already taken a few steps away when she caught sight of Qian Bao. Instead of avoiding her, she smiled and approached confidently. "Sis, what a coincidence. Fancy running into you here. How could she be this thick-skinned?" Qian Bao no longer felt as awkward as she did during their last encounter. After what she had just witnessed, Chen Qing had completely lost any standing in her eyes. Finally, she was able to assert her position as the rightful wife and coldly asked, "Who was that man just now?" "Oh, you saw? That's President Xiao from Nanzhou City. He's in mineral development, filthy rich." "Shameless. Aren't you afraid that Puxi will find out? He's about to marry you, and yet you're still doing this." Qian Bao's eyes blazed with fury. She had endured years of mistreatment and neglect from Wei Puxi, yet at this moment, she found herself absurdly wanting to seek justice for him. Chen Qing's smile finally faded. She glanced Qian Bao up and down, then let out a cold chuckle. "Don't get so worked up. Puxi knows about this. It was his arrangement." It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck from a clear sky. Qian Bao felt completely paralyzed, shocked to her core. By the time she regained her senses, Chen Qing was already gone, leaving her standing there alone under the blazing sun, frozen like a fool. Qian Bao was utterly confused. She was just a housewife, still holding on to outdated ideas of female virtue. She simply couldn't comprehend what kind of game Wei Puxi and Chen Qing were playing. Maybe Chen Qing was bluffing, afraid that she would spill the truth to Wei Puxi? The more Qian Bao thought about it, the more convinced she became. It felt like she had finally grasped a lifeline. She had to tell Wei Puxi the truth, expose Chen Qing for who she really was. A woman like her had no right to enter the Wei family. Only a virtuous wife like Qian Bao deserved to spend a lifetime with Puxi. Qian Bao was ecstatic. She even found herself looking forward to Wei Puxi's return. But before she could see him, Chen Qing unexpectedly called her. "Building 3, Apartment 502, Yunding Residential Complex. Come before 4 p.m. and you'll hear the answers you want." That was all Chen Qing said before hanging up. Qian Bao was at a loss. What was this vixen up to now? She couldn't figure it out, so she decided to go anyway. She carefully applied light makeup and put on a pair of pearl earrings, making herself look both gentle and dignified. At that moment, Qian Bao's confidence was at its peak. She believed she would win this battle for her marriage. She was ready to welcome back her repentant husband. However, Chen Qing's actions once again caught her off guard. As soon as Qian Bao stepped into apartment 502, she was met with Chen Qing's scolding. Chen Qing didn't even glance at her carefully prepared appearance. Instead, she frowned and complained that she was late, then dragged her straight into the master bedroom and shoved her into the wardrobe. "What the hell are you doing?" Curled up inside, Qian Bao struggled against her grip and demanded angrily, "Stay quiet and listen. You'll understand soon enough." Qian Bao refused. She was the rightful wife. She came here to expose Chen Qing, not to hide in a wardrobe like some spy. But before she could resist, there was a knock at the door. Sure. Chen Qing gestured for silence and, with a loud bang, shut the wardrobe door. The air became stuffy, and the light disappeared. Qian Bao held her breath, and soon, a familiar voice reached her ears. It was Wei Puxi. Did you meet with President Xiao? He sounded like he was taking off his belt. Qian Bao could hear the metallic clinking of the buckle. Yes. Did he? Qian Bao strained to listen, her forehead damp with sweat. Whether from the heat or something else, she couldn't tell. In the bedroom, Chen Qing didn't respond. Qian Bao couldn't see what was happening, but then Wei Puxi's voice came again. Clean yourself up. The noises outside gradually faded. 10 minutes later, Chen Qing's voice resurfaced. That familiar, sultry tone, rising and falling in soft, lingering moans, made Qian Bao's skin crawl. She bit down hard on her finger, trying to suppress her sobs, but tears poured uncontrollably. This was humiliation beyond words. As the rightful wife, she was hiding in a wardrobe, listening to her husband and his mistress doing such things. Chen Qing. How could she degrade her like this? Qian Bao felt like she was about to collapse. She could barely hold on, ready to push the wardrobe door open. But then, the sounds outside finally stopped. The storm had passed. Wei Puxi lay on the bed, lighting a cigarette. He took a deep drag, then pulled Chen Qing into his arms, exhaling a cloud of smoke in her face. Did President Xiao agree? He asked. Chen Qing glanced at him lazily. Same as before. That old pervert was only interested in fooling around. Didn't mention business at all. Then keep him happy. Wei Puxi grabbed her roughly, making her yelp. Before she could protest, he added, I'll visit him again. Once I get back, I'll divorce that woman. Be ready to get your marriage certificate. Oh, you're really that eager to put a green hat on yourself? Isn't this arrangement good enough? Wei Puxi sneered. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You want to climb higher? Let me remind you, you walked right into this trap. With what you've done, you're stuck with me for life. Chen Qing's face darkened, and she turned away. Wei Puxi gripped her chin and forced her to face him. A green hat means nothing if it brings in money. I used a marriage certificate to tie down Qian Bao, and I'll do the same to you. A whore like you has no right to act virtuous. Obey me, and the good days are still ahead. Then he got dressed and left. Chen Qing lay there for a while, then finally put on her clothes and opened the wardrobe door. All right, you can come out now. Qian Bao had no idea what she looked like at that moment, but Chen Qing saw everything clearly. The woman before her looked as if she had just been fished out of the water. Her hair clung messily to her forehead and temples. Her foundation was patchy, leaving her face unevenly pale and yellow. But the most unsettling thing was her eyes, lifeless, vacant, like a stagnant pool of dead water. Chen Qing felt a chill run down her spine. She hadn't planned to push things this far. She only wanted Qian Bao to see the truth and maybe point her in the right direction. Who would have thought that a housewife would be so fragile, breaking down just like that? Big sis. Chen Qing grabbed Qian Bao's arm and shook her a little, then picked up a bottle of perfume from the table and sprayed it at her. Qian Bao finally snapped out of it. She blinked, and in the next second, tears streamed down her face. You filthy vixen. How could you humiliate me like this? Are you two even human? I was already willing to step aside. Why do you still have to do this to me? Qian Bao clutched at Chen Qing's clothes, screaming at her in fury. Chen Qing was caught off guard at first, but when she realized what was happening, she straightened her arm and pushed Qian Bao away, then slapped her across the face. Are you stupid? Do you not understand words? You think I want to marry Wei Puxi? He's the one who insisted on marrying me so he could control me. If you have the guts, go make him drop the idea. I'd be more than happy to see it happen. Qian Bao froze. She clutched her burning cheek and collapsed onto the floor, replaying everything she had just heard in her mind. He sent Chen Qing to President Xiao's bed. He didn't care if Chen Qing was clean or not. He only wanted to make money by using a woman's connections. Qian Bao gagged. She suddenly realized that she had never truly understood the man sleeping next to her. How deep did his cruelty go? How black was his heart? Qian Bao was utterly lost. She even started considering divorce. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to end things. At least then she wouldn't have to worry about Wei Puxi selling her off one day too. As these thoughts churned in her mind, Chen Qing, standing beside her, seemed to see right through her. With a cold laugh, Chen Qing lifted the hem of her dress and crouched down in front of Qian Bao. "Big sis, let me give you one more piece of news." Wei Puxi said he won't give you a single cent. He wants you to walk away with nothing. Think about it. Does this seem worth it? Being discarded like an old rag, tossed aside without a second thought, and forced to live in Yunshan with your tail between your legs. Qian Bao lifted her head and looked at Chen Qing in a daze. Her lipstick had smudged, spreading over her lips like the mark of a demon crawling out of hell. "I am not a rag." That was all Qian Bao said. Qian Bao returned home in a daze. Her heart, like a roller coaster plunging from the sky, had been shattered into tiny pieces. For the first time, she understood what it meant to feel completely hopeless. For the past 15 years, even though no one had truly treated her as an equal, she had stubbornly held onto the title of the Wei family's mistress. But now, as if waking up from a dream, she finally realized that in Wei Puxi's eyes, she was nothing more than a free maid for his mother. "Come home. Let's talk about the divorce." For the first time in her life, Qian Bao called Wei Puxi, but his response was the same as always, a rejection. "You come home first, or I'm not getting a divorce." Qian Bao kept her voice calm and laid down the ultimatum. On the other end of the line, Wei Puxi cursed in anger, but only told her to wait. Around 8 p.m., Wei Puxi came home. Qian Bao took a long, careful look at him. He was tall, with closely cropped hair. He had kept it that way for years. His eyebrows were thick, sharply arched, giving him a naturally fierce look. And now, as he met Qian Bao's gaze, he simply cast her a cold glance before leaning back against the sofa. "What do you want to say? Do we really have to get divorced? Mom just passed away. I took care of her for so many years, and I gave birth to Wei Nan. Even if I haven't contributed much, I've still worked hard for this family. How can you be so heartless?" Wei Puxi scoffed and gave her another glance, his tone full of disdain. "You're just a rural girl who married into my family and enjoyed a life of luxury. I've never let you go hungry or left you without nice clothes, have I? Didn't I pay to build your family's houses? When your brother got married, wasn't it my money that made it happen? Qian Bao, do you even realize what you're worth?" Qian Bao had still held onto a sliver of hope, but as she listened to Wei Puxi's words, her face turned from red to pale. "You don't have to worry about Wei Nan. I'll send him to a private school in Nanzhou. You pack up your things, sign the papers, and get out." Wei Puxi laid down his final order. Thursday, they would go to the civil affairs office and finalize the divorce. Qian Bao stood frozen, silent. But as Wei Puxi turned to leave, she suddenly grabbed his sleeve. "You can't do this to me. How am I supposed to live? Where am I supposed to go? How could I possibly survive?" Qian Bao knelt on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Wei Puxi yanked his arm but couldn't break free. Frustrated, he turned and grabbed Qian Bao by the collar. "I don't give a damn how you live. Go back to your family. Those houses I paid for, you have a share in them. Go fight with your dad and your brother, but don't come whining to me. You know exactly what kind of person I am, so don't push your luck or you really won't survive." With that, Wei Puxi shoved Qian Bao aside and strode out the door. Qian Bao lay on the cold floor, her face streaked with tears and snot. For the first time, she truly understood just how insignificant she was. She was nothing but a tool. Once useful, now drained dry and thrown away like trash. "It's me. Have you thought it through?" "I don't understand." Qian Bao's voice was weak. "What don't you understand? You don't understand why he treats you this way? Or, you don't know what to do next? Chen Qing sneered and threw the question back at her. Qian Bao remained silent for 2 minutes before she started rambling. I first met my mother-in-law. She fell on the road, and I kindly helped her up and took her home. Back then, Wei Puxi was still young, full of energy. The Wei family was wealthy and powerful. People like us from the countryside wouldn't even dare to dream about marrying into such a family. I never had any thoughts about it. It was the Wei family who came to my house and said they wanted to marry me. Her voice choked up, and as she spoke, she started sobbing. Chen Qing originally intended to mock her, but when the words reached her lips, she let out a sigh instead. Do you think reminiscing about these old, worthless memories will help you now? First of all, Wei Puxi married you for his mother, so you could take care of her. Second, he has made up his mind to throw you out. Are you really willing to leave just like this? On the other end of the phone, Qian Bao gently shook her head, but what she said was, "What else can I do?" Chen Qing let out a laugh, an amused yet exasperated one. She laughed for a long while before letting out a cold snort and saying, "I'll be blunt with you. I was never with Wei Puxi willingly. You've seen it yourself these past few days, just how rotten and heartless he is. I can't keep living like this. I want out. Do you want to join me?" The word join shocked Qian Bao. She wiped her tears away, pressed the phone tightly to her ear, and lowered her voice, asking, "What are you planning?" "Come to my place. I'll explain in detail." After hesitating for a while, Qian Bao still ended up going to the Yunding apartment complex. The day Wei Puxi had set was approaching fast. A sudden bolt of lightning split through the dark sky. Out of nowhere, a sense of reckless courage welled up in her. She wanted to see what lay beyond this darkness, whether there was a glimpse of light. She took several deep breaths outside Chen Qing's door before finally knocking. 3 minutes later, the door opened. "Come in and sit." Chen Qing was wearing a silk dress, the form-fitting design highlighting her figure. She didn't show any sign of hospitality. She simply pointed at the sofa and sat down first. Qian Bao, once again, became timid like the first time she met Chen Qing. She perched on the edge of the sofa and, seeing Chen Qing scrolling through her phone absent-mindedly, couldn't help but speak first. "What exactly do you want to do?" "I've already made it clear. I don't want to stay with Wei Puxi anymore. I'm leaving Yinshan, leaving Nanzhou. It wouldn't be hard for me to leave, but, big sister, you're just too pitiful. I figured I'd give you a hand." Chen Qing looked at Qian Bao and smiled, making Qian Bao's heart tremble with unease. She nervously cleared her throat, stole a quick glance at Chen Qing, and asked, "Can you really help me?" "How?" Chen Qing had little patience for foolishness, but seeing Qian Bao's fearful and hesitant demeanor, she couldn't bring herself to scold her outright. Instead, she curved her lips into a smile and deliberately softened her voice. "Big sister, let me ask you first. Do you think, given Wei Puxi's nature, your marriage has any chance of turning around?" Qian Bao hesitated, then gently shook her head. Chen Qing continued, "Then what's your plan for the future? Are you just going to let him kick you out with nothing, or do you want to have some money to live on?" "Of course, I want some money in hand. Not too much, just enough for me and Wei Nan to get by. I don't have many skills as long as we can survive." Qian Bao anxiously cut in. Chen Qing clenched her fists, took a deep breath to calm herself, and then spoke again. "Big sister, if you want to live your own life, then Wei Puxi." Qian Bao suddenly looked up. What are you trying to do?" "I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just saying, if Wei Puxi ended up like his mother, bedridden and unable to move, wouldn't that mean you could live a peaceful life with your son? I heard his mother adored you. Think about it, if he were like that, wouldn't you be the only one he could rely on? You have plenty of experience in this area, don't you?" Chen Qing's voice was calm as she spoke, carefully observing Qian Bao's reaction. At first, Qian Bao was shocked. Then, fear crept onto her face. But finally there was contemplation. This is harming someone. This is a crime. Qian Bao finally grasped what was being suggested. She abruptly stood up, facing Chen Qing. Chen Qing pulled her back down. You don't need to do anything illegal. Wei Puxi has committed enough crimes. Plenty of people want him dead. Big sister, I just need one word from you. If it's ruled an accident, would you, as his family member, sign a letter of forgiveness? Chen Qing locked eyes with Qian Bao. Qian Bao visibly panicked. She instinctively stood up and started pacing, her mind replaying images. Ji Haiying's pale face before she died, Wei Puxi's sharp figure in a tailored suit on their wedding day, and the moment he grabbed her collar and demanded a divorce. He told her he'd make sure she had no way to survive. Those words buzzed in her ears, echoing over and over again. She paced for nearly half an hour before finally stopping and stepping toward Chen Qing. Can you guarantee? Qian Bao's whole body was trembling. The words came out in a stuttering whisper. I can guarantee it. After everything is done, I want 1.5 million yuan. I'll take 500,000 as compensation for my 7 years with him. The remaining 1 million is for the person handling it. No matter what, someone will have to do time for this. Chen Qing gripped Qian Bao's shoulders, her voice firm and unwavering. Qian Bao suddenly broke down into tears. The more she cried, the louder she got. In the end, she threw herself into Chen Qing's arms, sobbing uncontrollably as she nodded her head. There were only 3 days left until the divorce, and Qian Bao lived in constant anxiety. She was afraid that something might go wrong on Chen Qing's side, and she was also afraid that Wei Puxi might suddenly change his mind and demand a divorce before Thursday. Carrying this restless tension, Qian Bao finally received the news. The call came from a hospital, informing her that Wei Puxi was undergoing emergency treatment and that his condition was critical. Qian Bao hung up the phone and rushed to the hospital, her lips twitching the entire way. Others assumed she was terrified, but only she knew that she simply didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A crowd had already gathered at the hospital, and Chen Qing was among them. Qian Bao stumbled toward the operating room door, but was pulled back by one of Wei Puxi's subordinates. Sis-in-law, he's still in surgery. It was a car accident. He got hit at the construction site. For a moment, Qian Bao was dazed. She glanced at Chen Qing through the crowd before turning back to ask, What happened? Tell me exactly what happened. The subordinate cursed and said, That bastard Li Yutian. He wasn't watching while reversing and ran over the boss just like that. That son of a bitch probably did it on purpose. We called the police. They'll get to the bottom of this. Qian Bao felt the tension in her chest suddenly release. She slid down against the wall and remained there for the next 2.5 hours until the surgery light finally went out. Doctor, how is he? We managed to save him, but he'll need to stay in the ICU for observation. However, even if he regains consciousness, there's a high chance he'll be paralyzed from the neck down. Qian Bao froze, her body tilting backward. Chen Qing was right behind her and caught her just in time. She leaned in close and whispered, Sis, don't worry too much. This is already the best possible outcome. Yes, this was the best outcome. Qian Bao clutched Chen Qing's hand tightly and nodded slightly, tears silently rolling down her face and disappearing into the hollow of her neck. Life seemed to return to normal for Qian Bao. She made it through Thursday unscathed, still living in the Wei family's house, still holding the title of Mrs. Wei Puxi. The only difference was that the person she cared for had changed from Ji Haiying to Wei Puxi, but that was fine. She was already well practiced in this role. As soon as the accident happened, Li Yutian, the driver, was taken into custody. It was a construction site dump truck, long-bodied and maneuvering at night. It was difficult to say whether it was an accident or intentional. After multiple reconstructions of the scene, the police concluded that it was an accident. Wei Puxi had been standing in the truck's blind spot while it was reversing, making Li Yutian only partially responsible. As agreed, Qian Bao, as a family member, signed a letter of forgiveness. Li Yutian was sentenced to 2 years, and 6 months later, the Li family's bank account received a transfer of 1 million yuan. Wei Puxi, of course, remained unaware of all this. He remained in a coma in the ICU for an entire week, and when he finally opened his eyes, he discovered that he was paralyzed. He was furious, screaming that he would kill Li Yutian. The doctors had no choice but to sedate him and put him back to sleep. Only then did Qian Bao have the chance to leave the hospital. Chen Qing was waiting at a nearby tea house. She was still wearing a dress, still as dazzling as ever, as if nothing had changed. "Was this Li Yutian you're doing?" Qian Bao asked. "Yes." "What do you think? Clean work, isn't it?" Qian Bao, who had been hardened over the past few days, took a sip of tea before replying, "Clean, but it's a sin." Chen Qing simply laughed. "Oh, my dear sister, you've spent these past 10 years locking yourself away, ignorant of the world. If we're talking about sins, what happened to Wei Puxi is nothing but karma." This Li Yutian was one of Wei Puxi's drivers. He had an older brother, Li Guitian, who also worked on Wei Puxi's construction site. Last year, there was an accident. Li Guitian died. Wei Puxi only paid out 100,000 yuan in compensation. The Li family had to swallow their anger if they wanted to keep working in Yunshan, but Li Yutian could never get over it. A life is a life. Why should his brothers be worth so little? Qian Bao fell silent. After a moment, she checked the time on her phone and stood up to leave. "He's been asking to see you these past few days," she said. "I'll go in a few days. I should see him one last time after all." Chen Qing smiled as she walked Qian Bao to the door. The sun was shining brightly that day. Qian Bao stepped outside, looked up at the sky, and realized, finally, the light beyond the darkness had arrived. Wei Puxi was discharged from the hospital half a month later. He was paralyzed from the neck down and could barely speak. Qian Bao took meticulous care of him, but it never earned her a kind word. Eventually, she got used to it. He cursed and she did her job. That day, Chen Qing made a rare visit. Since Wei Puxi's accident, this was the first time she had shown up. The moment he saw her, he flew into a rage. "You whore!" Wei Puxi clenched his fists and roared at her, spitting in her face. Chen Qing quickly stepped back. "Don't be mad. Didn't I come to see you?" she said. "You can't afford to get angry now." "Oh my, did you just for yourself?" Chen Qing covered her mouth with a laugh and continued. "You just focus on your recovery. June has taken over the business. When the time comes, your share of the dividends will be sent over, enough to cover your medical expenses. Life will still be comfortable. As for President Xiao, I won't be running around for you anymore. That man is filthy, and I don't want to catch anything. Let's just leave it at that." The moment she mentioned P, Wei Puxi's face turned crimson. As soon as she finished speaking, he grabbed a roll of paper from his bedside and threw it at her. He had no strength left. The paper only made a weak arc before landing near the bed. Chen Qing chuckled, waved at him, and walked out of the bedroom. Behind her, Wei Puxi was still cursing. Chen Qing settled onto the sofa and handed Qian Bao a bag she had brought along. "A gift for you. I picked it out specially. It suits you well." Qian Bao took it, but didn't open it. Instead, she asked, "Are you leaving?" "Not yet," Chen Qing said, giving Qian Bao a knowing glance. "Big sis, you should start thinking more about yourself. You've been serving his mother for 14 years. Are you planning to spend the rest of your life as a slave to him too? You once said that now that he's like this, he has no one to rely on but me. Sure, he relies on you, but does that mean he saved your life? Do you really have to endure his every whim, to be summoned and dismissed at will?" Qian Bao fell silent. Chen Qing sighed softly and said no more. Qian Bao truly believed she had adapted. She was used to taking care of a bedridden patient, cleaning up after them, turning them over, feeding them. But she had forgotten that the person lying in bed now was not Ji Haiying, but Wei Puxi. He felt no gratitude, only endless resentment and hatred toward her. So when he spat on her face again, a dark thought finally crept into Qian Bao's mind. "You know, I took care of your mother for 14 years, she said. She wiped her face, then used the same towel to wipe Wei Puxi's. I know better than anyone how to keep a paralyzed person comfortable, how to keep their muscles from atrophying, how to ensure regular bowel movements, how to prevent bed sores. When your mother died, she was clean and well cared for. That was all thanks to me. They say no child is truly filial when faced with long-term illness. Be honest, were you ever a filial son? She poked Wei Puxi's chest. He grunted and let out garbled, angry sounds. 14 years. I never wore skirts because they weren't practical for taking care of your mother. I never had a full night's sleep, always on edge in case she needed me in the middle of the night. I was the one who sent her off in the end. How could you just cast me aside like this? Qian Bao started to cry again, but it was wasted words. Wei Puxi turned his head away, ignoring her. I told you, I have 100 ways to make a paralyzed person comfortable. But I also have 100 ways to make them suffer. I used to think that now you had no one else, you would finally see my worth. But even now, you still look down on me. Well then, have it your way. With that, Qian Bao patted Wei Puxi's face and walked out. Wei Puxi froze for a moment, then erupted into another string of curses. Qian Bao, fed up, simply shut the door behind her. This bedroom used to belong to Ji Haiying. It had barely been empty for 2 months before Wei Puxi took it over. When Ji Haiying was alive, Qian Bao never closed the door. She never made a fuss. Wei Puxi, though, was different. A man as ruthless as he was, even bedridden, couldn't stay quiet. Well then, he couldn't blame her for no longer taking good care of him. That night, Qian Bao locked her door and had a peaceful sleep. The next morning, she put on a light yellow dress, the one Qin Qing had given her. It looked wonderful. She made sure to stand by Wei Puxi's bed for a moment, letting him see. Whatever his reaction was, Qian Bao no longer cared. She then went to Wei Nan's school and arranged for him to board there. From now on, her full attention would be on caring for Wei Puxi. And so, 5 months later, Wei Puxi died. Qin Qing left Yunshan, just like when she left Lijia Cliff Village, without a trace. Few people knew that before she was with Wei Puxi, she had been married before. She met Wei Puxi, and 3 months later, that man was dead. The man had been tending his sheep when he fell off a cliff and broke his neck. His mother wailed in agony, but Qin Qing only stood there, watching coldly. That was the 3rd month since she had met Wei Puxi. They had met 3 times, but hadn't yet slept together. Then Wei Puxi had someone deliver her a package of medicine. A very potent dose. Qin Qing poured half of it into the sheep's pen and mixed the rest into the man's food. 5 sheep died. 1 man followed. And just like that, Qin Qing was free. Her world expanded from a remote mountain village to the bustling county town. And with it, the men's methods became even more ruthless. But Qin Qing remained Qin Qing. And men remained men. There was nothing new under the sun. But she refused to settle, so she kept moving forward. Behind her lay a rugged path. Ahead of her, it was no smooth road either. But so what? She would keep walking.